My name is John Passfield, and I'm going to read from my novel, Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am. The title of this reading will be Pauline Johnson, Video 9, Pauline's Dream Nightmares. Here's the cover of the novel, Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am, a photograph of Pauline Johnson from 110 years ago, a backyard snapshot, actually. Pauline Johnson was born on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, Canada. Was she American, British, or Canadian? Was she Mohawk, English, or mixed? She added up her assets and liabilities and decided that Pauline the world would see would be Pauline the performance artist, Pauline on stage. As for the real Pauline, she would keep that to herself. Here's a note on terminology. Such terms as First Nations, Aboriginal, and Indigenous were not in common usage at the time at which the events of the novel take place. To refer to her mother's people, the historical Pauline Johnson used the terms English and white. To refer to her father's people, she used the terms Indian, Mohawk, and red. While the novel is fiction, I've used Pauline Johnson terms throughout the novel in the interest of historical accuracy. Dreams and Nightmares are the original movies. I assume that everybody has dreams and nightmares. I assume that our earliest ancestors had dreams and nightmares. Their sleeping minds made up visual stories long before the invention of the film. We are told that we only become aware of a fraction of the subconscious dreams and nightmares that we have while we are asleep. So, it seems logical to assume that we have waking subconscious dreams and nightmares too. My premise is that every word of the novel is an image in the mind of the main character, Pauline Johnson. So, the 7 dreams and nightmares which I'm about to read are either sleeping subconscious or waking subconscious images in her mind. Let's go to page 20 and have a look. So it's a dream nightmare that she might or may not be aware of, but it's operating in her mind and it's commenting on other things in her life. The surface life that she's living, all the people and friends and acquaintances that she's thinking about as she's going through this process of evaluating a long life that she's had. I can feel myself being born. I can feel myself starting to breathe. I can feel my eyes unpeel as I look around. I'm born inside a cage, a narrow metal cage. All of life is taking place outside my cage. Then the second installment of the same dream nightmare. There's a cage on either side of the cage in which I dwell. There is life in the other cages. There are people on either side. These two peoples are aware of each other, but they're never able to meet. They live on either side of my narrow cage. And then a couple of pages later, for the third installment of this dream nightmare, there are costumes in my cage. They're hanging on a coat rack. I try a costume on. The bars of my cage begin to move. I slip out through the bars and walk among the other peoples. A different costume for each of the worlds outside my cage. Day after day, I put on a costume and move outside in the other worlds. The other worlds are cages of greater size. Well, that's dream nightmare number 1. Let's go to number 2, page 36. Again, these are interlayered with other thoughts, other images in the mind of the main character. That's why I move so many pages each time. Here's the next dream nightmare. I was born with an interesting secret. I have full control of my eyes. I can look at something and see its inner depths. I can look at a vase and see how much water is in that vase. I can look at a tree and see whether the rings still grow. Second image. I can see everything in its depths. I look at a king and see the skeleton. Look at a chief and see the bones. I see people as they cannot see themselves. People huddle in herds and flocks, but I see us as all the same. I see beneath the flesh and blood to the very bone. And then we go over a couple of pages to the third image of this dream nightmare. With me, there are no secrets. I can see to the depths of our beings. We are skeletons walking and talking. Love is floating like a mist inside the rib cage. Hate is floating like a mist inside the skull. I am the girl who was born with X-ray eyes. And that was the second one. Let's go to page 52 for a third dream nightmare. Here it is. I visit my sister once in a while. I let a year or two go by. My sister lives on the ocean floor. In the lee of a sunken ship, the bubbles rise to the surface as we talk. She always tells me she has everything she needs. Second image of this dream nightmare. The pull of the tide is gentle here. Gently it rises, gently it falls. Tiny fish drift by in schools. My sister waves to them with smiles. She tells me she has everything that she could possibly need. And then the third image of that dream nightmare. I talk to my sister. She talks to me. Tiny bubbles leave our mouths and float to the surface. She tells me of her life in the lee of the sunken ship. I tell her I have swum around the world. She tells me she often wishes that I would return and stay at home. All the time we talk, the current is beckoning me. So that's the end of that dream nightmare. Let's go to page 68 for the next one. And here it is here. I'm walking on a tightrope. I'm managing to keep my balance despite the brisk wind. I keep my head up and look forward. I sense that I'm a very great height above the ground. Second image. There's a man at the end of the tightrope. He is loosening the knots that secure the rope. I try to move a little faster, but the knots are now untied. I turn and move in the other direction, but another man is doing exactly the same. The tightrope will not be secure at either end. Then a couple of pages later, I'll just flip over and find it. Here it is. I am amazed that I keep my balance. The tightrope is no longer attached at either end, but an interesting thing is happening. The tightrope is floating down to the earth. I'm able to keep my balance. The tightrope is floating gently down towards the ground. And that's the end of that nightmare. Excuse me, I'll just clear my throat a little bit. Let's go to page 84 for another dream nightmare. All of these are images in the depths of her mind, Pauline Johnson's mind, that are commenting on her life and all the events and people in her life that she's reviewing at 50 years old. I'm a little English boy. I'm watching a Wild West show. The cowboys are chasing the Indians. The Indians are chasing the cowboys. They are living an exciting life. They ride their horses over the western plains. Second image. I'm a little English boy. I wish, oh how I wish to grow up. I wish to grow up in a hurry and leave my home. I want to be an Indian on a horse chasing cowboys. I want to be a cowboy on a horse chasing Indians. I want to ride my horse across the western plains. And a couple of pages later, I'll just have to find it here. One more page maybe. Here it is. I'm a little English boy. I'm an actor in a Wild West show. We tour the English provinces. I ride a wild stallion in every performance. I have costumes that I wear. Some days I'm a cowboy chasing the Indians. Some days I'm an Indian chasing the cowboys. The whole show builds up to a magnificent grand finale. We all stop chasing and take our bows as the music plays. Well, that's the end of that dream nightmare. Page 100, I'll find here for another dream nightmare. It is my true and valued friend. He stands in front of me on my path. He blocks my way, and so I stop and look in his eyes. He asks that I should trust him. He says he knows my deepest self. He offers his eyes to me when he feels I have lost my way. Second image. He reaches inside my chest. He plunges right on through my skin and into my chest and clutches my heart. He pulls my heart right out of my chest and holds it out for me to see. Look at this, he says. Look at this. This is the heart that pumps the blood that gives you life. And now we go over to the third nightmare image. Look at this, he says. My heart is moving in his hand. He holds it out to me. He stands there with my blood dripping onto the ground. I stand and look at my heart in the hand of my true and valued friend. This is what I want you to see. This is what has been inside you all along. I see every drop of blood that is giving me life. Now, put this heart back in your chest and carry on. Well, that's the final image in that nightmare. And the last one I'm going to read, chapter 15, page 116. Once again, I'll just clear my throat here. Sorry. And here it is. I have a wish to tell a story that I know I was born to tell, a story that will reach the ears of millions, a story that will summon tears and smiles, a story that will change both hearts and minds. Second image. I have a wish to tell a story I will write upon the page. I wish to print 1,000,000 copies. The sky grows dark and the wind blows fiercely. A storm is coming over the hills. I'm attempting to write my story. The wind seems bent on tearing the paper from my hand. And now the third image, here it is. I have a wish to tell a story. I'm standing on a stage. I'm waiting for the audience to arrive. The bills are posted. The room is large. The price of each ticket is a smile. I picture a lineup around the block, up to the hills and around the bend. I rehearse until it is time to open the doors. Well, those are the dream nightmares. Let me read a note that I wrote in response to these passages. The interesting thing about dreams and nightmares is that they are presented to us in imagery, in pure imagery, in characters and settings and dialogues without interpretation. The interpretation of dreams and nightmares is left to ourselves. Some dreams and nightmares are trivial and can be dismissed. Some dreams and nightmares strike us as extremely pertinent and cry out for attention. And some dreams and nightmares remain in the depths of our minds, unknown to our conscious selves, but presumably influencing our thoughts and even our decisions and our actions. The technical innovation of the poetic play and the poetic novel is that the reader is privileged to be able to see the dreams and nightmares of the main character, even when, perhaps, the main character is unaware that these images are present in his or her subconscious mind. Not presented in a play or novel of pure imagery is the interpretation of such images. So, in this way, the poetic play and the poetic novel resemble our own dreams and nightmares, films that we experience in the dark of pure images, without an accompanying interpretation, but images, when we are aware of them, that lend themselves to endless speculation. In watching such a play or in reading such a novel, the viewer or reader speculates as the main character speculates. The purpose of such an experience, such an artistic experience, is to stimulate a similar process of interpretation concerning the images that suggest potential meaning in the films of our own minds. So, just as we interpret the images of a poetic play, and just as we interpret the images of a poetic novel, so too do we interpret the images of our own conscious and subconscious lives. So the reader is actually reading about himself or herself when he reads a play or a novel of images, the poetic novel, the poetic play. The novel is Pauline Johnson, Know Who I Am, a novel by John Passfield. It's on Amazon. There's information there. My publisher's website is rocksmillspress.com, rocksmillspress.com. More information there. My website, johnpassfield.ca, johnpassfield.ca, has 2 free books, free access. Just click on the screen and you'll have a look at them. Planning notebook, how did I work my way through the writing process? A journal, what did I think of the rough draft as I was polishing it? So have a look at those. They're available for free access, as I say. And lastly, I'll just say thank you for watching this video.